What's up, everybody? It is the Site B engine worker here, and today we are back with episode 7 of our Site B mode series. And for those that have been keeping up with the series, because I kind of want to spend a little bit of this intro just recapping what's been happening, or mainly what happened last episode. But for those that's been keeping up with the series, you guys know that I was talking about revealing something huge in the last episode. Once we got to 50 subscribers, we got to 50 plus subscribers. So that is something that I did, and the big reveal for that episode was that the InGen team and we've been working on a new 2025 InGen list, a new list of animals that we would add to the already established ecosystems here on Isla Sorna. And we revealed 9 animals. We'll just go through those animals right quick. Acrocanthosaurus, Utah raptor, Lokiceratops, Eutyrannus, Ornithomimus, Concavinator, Patagotitan, Muttoborosaurus, and Sauropelta. And I basically said in the last episode that we would be releasing those animals into the wild randomly in random episodes, but I actually changed my mind on that. So this episode is actually going to be extremely busy. We're going to visit many parts of Isla Sorna here and release all 9 of the new clone dinosaurs off of the new 2025 InGen list. So anytime we're releasing anything into the wild, whether it's a newly cloned dinosaur that we just actually cloned, or well, for example, these new animals that we're going to be releasing, anytime we release animals into the wild, we always pick a calm location on Isla Sorna to do that in. That way, in case it's a carnivore, we pick like an area where it's a lot of herbivores around. That way, they'll have things to feed off of. And if it's a herbivore, we'll pick an area where there's not a lot of carnivores around. That way, the herbivores don't have to worry about, becoming carnivore prey. So with all that being said, we're going to start this episode off in this little area here on the Isla Sorna, and we're going to release our first animal off of the new InGen list. And in these little areas, these little comments, because Isla Sorna is such a huge island, so it gives us the opportunity to, be picky with certain areas that we want to release our animals in. So in this little area, it's full of a variety of herbivores. We got Edmontosauruses, Dryasauruses, Styracosauruses, Gallimimus. So this would be a perfect area to release the first animal off our new 2025 InGen list, which is the Acrocanthosaurus. So for those that didn't watch the last episode, we just get these guys out of their incubation chambers. But for those that didn't watch the last episode, we bred 10 Acrocanthosauruses, 4 males and 6 females. We're going to get these gates open, that way they go straight out into the wild. The reason why we bred more females than males is because we want the males to have a large variety of females to choose from when it's time to breed. So anyways, we're going to watch these guys come out in the wild. What we're going to do when we release these animals, we're going to, because since this episode is going to be so busy, we'll spend time looking at these animals for a quick second, and then we'll go and venture off to the next the next locations here on Isla Sorna where we'll release the other animals off of the new 2025 InGen list.
Pleased to welcome an Acrocanthosaurus to the park.
So let's see if we can. The more darker, see, just make sure I'm right. Yeah, so this one right here is a male. Just to be sure we're gonna. Yep, just wanted to make sure. So the more, tap back into our camera mode right quick. So the more darker green ones, or I guess you could say lighter green with black stripings, and the more lighter brown ones with black stripings, those are the females, and then these are the males. As I said, we bred more males compared to females. That way, we bred more females compared to males. That way, the males can have a variety of females to choose from when it's time to breed. And as I mentioned, this little area that we're in right now, this is it's filled with a lot of herbivores, from Gallimimuses to Edmontosauruses, and this isn't cruel or anything like that. This is Isla Sorna. Life finds a way here, on this island. As I mentioned plenty of times before, we're able to clone our own animals and release them into the wild here on Isla Sorna. But when specific species do get low, we do repopulate those animals to make sure that they don't fall back into extinction. So we're gonna make sure that we still have two sleeping acrocanthosaurus, a male and a female, still in the behind the gate. So of course, once they come from behind the gates, we'll go ahead and close those gates up. And as I said, we won't stay in these. You know, the whole purpose of this episode is to get these animals, release all 9 of the new animals off the new 2025 engine list, release them into the wild as quick as possible, and from there, we'll venture off and get the other. We'll venture off to other locations here on Isla Sorna and get the other animals released as soon as possible. So you know, this is the first time that these beautiful large acrocanthosaurus are released into the wild. So whether they hunt or not is to be determined. You know, this is their first time interacting with other animals or, you know, other species of dinosaurs besides themselves. I mean, besides themselves. So of course they have to type back into our camera mode. Oh, we actually do have a hunt taking place. So yeah, so this male right here, he had no problem establishing himself on the top of the food chain here, in this little area here on Isla Sorna. So and we still do got those 2 males sleeping. Let me see, do we have another hunt taking? Oh no, that's just the Edmontosaurus running off. Oh, we have another hunt taking place. This is a female, and she appears to be. She's chasing something. Oh yeah, so she's chasing a Dryosaurus. So yeah, already you see these guys are having no issue at all establishing themselves on the top of the food chain here. We have the females that are doing most of the hunting. This female is running after this Dryosaurus. So this is, I was expecting to see this from the start. You know, these carnivores establishing themselves and having no issue hunting. As I mentioned in the last episode, the reason why we chose to clone Acrocanthosaurus is because Isla Sorna is heavily lacking in the large carnivore department, and we only have Tyrannosaurus rexes, well, rexes and Spinosauruses on this island. So we're going to give this little area a quick scope right here. As I said, we only have this area is more so filled with a lot of herbivores compared to actual carnivores. So we have Edmontosauruses and Gallimimuses in the area. I know this area is also. We gave this area a little scope before we decided to release our Acrocanthosauruses. So obviously I know what's in the area, but as I mentioned, when we're releasing animals into the wild, we try to pick calmer parts of the island. So as you can see, we have some Suchomimuses in the area. This is actually a mother and father pair, and they have about 5 juveniles, and you can see the other juveniles over here. But I just wanted to give this area a quick scope. Of course, once these animals all get established out into the wild here on Isla Sorna, we'll see them more in future episodes. That's not necessarily the point of this episode, you know, to spend a lot of time with these animals. The point of this episode is mainly just to release them out into the wild. And it seems we actually have, let me see, a male and female actually fighting here, or at least they probably were fighting, but it's not really a big deal. You know, these animals, these Acrocanthosauruses, they are kind of like siblings because they were cloned at the same time. So this is something that you'll see them do a lot as far as fighting amongst each other. But anyways, we're going to get ready to venture off. Oh, we have this female Edmontosaurus actually defending her baby. So yeah, this is actually very good footage to document right here. But she appears, this female actor, yeah, she still went after the juvenile Edmontosaurus. And now she's chasing after one of the adults. So yeah, we're gonna, I hate to cut this action short, because we still have a whole bunch of other animals to release on our new engine list. So we're gonna go ahead and head to the next part. Well, the next location here on Isla Sorna. Alright everybody, so we are back at our next location here on Isla Sorna. This is actually the location, I believe, from episode 5. It might be 5 or 4, but I believe it's from episode 5 where we actually had released our Kentrosauruses, which of course weren't on the weren't on the new engine list that we're releasing our animals off of now. But we did a little bit of remodeling. We trimmed some of the trees at this little release facility, I guess you can call it. That way we can see some of the animals better that we release anytime we decide to clone and release animals into the wild. So So yeah, so here at this little location on Isla Sorna, we're going to be releasing Loki Ceratops and Ornithomimus. And for those that don't know, and a little quick reminder for those that did watch the last episode, we cloned 12 Loki Ceratops, 3 males, 9 females. We cloned 20 Ornithomimus, um, 10 males and 10 females. So of course we cloned only 3 male Loki Ceratops and cloned 9 female Loki Ceratops. We did that because we wanted them to have more females to breed with, of course. So we're gonna release our Loki Ceratops first, of course. Release all 12 of them, and then we have our Ornithomimuses in this little area. So I was going to release the Loki Ceratops first, and just let them go ahead and venture out. But I think for the hell of it, so we can speed things up, we're gonna go ahead and release our
Ladies and gentlemen,
Ornithomimus as well.
we are
I mean,
pleased to welcome
Ornithomimuses are well
Loki
as well.
Ceratops to the park.
And tap back into our camera mode right fast. So we have our beautiful Ornithomimuses, as I
Ladies
just
and
mentioned,
gentlemen,
20
we
of
are
them
pleased to
total.
welcome and
These
bring
are the
happy news
males
to
with
the park.
the brighter necks and just brighter colors overall, and the more calmer, duller colors, or I guess you can just say more calmer colors, is the females. And over here we have our beautiful Loki Ceratops. We are just so excited to add these animals to the island. These are the females. Their frill is a little bit smaller, and their face horns are a little bit smaller, and you can just see how much different the sexual dimorphism is with the males, as far as them having larger frills and more larger horns that
Ladies
come
and
a lot more
gentlemen,
outwards
we are
compared to
pleased
the
to welcome our
females.
Loki
So
Ceratops
as
to
I
the
just
park.
mentioned, 12 Loki Ceratops and 20 Ornithomimuses. And of course, it's up to them to venture out here, which they of course will. If they take a long time, we probably won't stick around for it because, as I mentioned, this episode is a pretty busy episode. We're going to be venturing out to a few more locations here on Isla Sorna to just make sure we get all of these newly cloned animals released off of the new 2025 engine list, of course. So any minute now, of course, they'll smell that fresh water and fresh food, and they'll start coming out of this little enclosure, this little holding pen. Of course, all of these animals were cloned together, so it's only right that they feel. Well, I mean, the specific species of these animals, like for example, the Loki Ceratops were all cloned together. They aren't, of course, blood siblings, but they were all cloned at the same time, so they'll feel comfortable around each other. Because as I mentioned, every animal on the new 2025 engine list, all 20 of them, I mean, all 9 of these species, they were all cloned and held for about 1.5 going on 2 years before we decided to release them now, which of course is in this video. So I do believe that uh most of the ornithomimuses are making their way out of their enclosure. We are just so excited. I think out of this and Loki Ceratops, these beautiful ornithomimuses are, one of my favorites between the two to release off the new 2025 engine list. It just brings a lot of variety when it comes to our ornithomimus. I mean, our ornithomimuses, and of course, we got our gallimimuses and our struthiomimuses. So it just brings a lot of variety in that sense. And of course, our Loki Ceratops, a little bit on the smaller side compared to our Triceratops and our Sinoceratops, but of course, they'll fit very well in with our Styracosauruses, and we're just excited to get these animals. Well, we were excited to clone these animals, of course, and we're excited to release them out into the wild. And as I always mention, worst case scenario, if the count for these specific animals get too low in terms of their population and numbers, of course, we'll do our due diligence by recloning these beautiful animals to make sure that they don't fall back into extinction. So you can see we have a lot of we have some Allure Titan juveniles just running around playing with each other. So as I mentioned, the areas, these specific locations here on Isla Sorna that we're releasing these animals in are all calm environments. Isla Sorna is so huge that, it's so, despite the many species of dinosaurs that are on Isla Sorna, it is such a huge island that every part of the island is not touched by herbivore. I mean, by dinosaurs. So it gives us the opportunity to come to calmer parts of Isla Sorna, more calmer and just more relaxed areas, and do a lot of research, our own little research on the island, and of course release animals into the wild and stuff like that. So just like in episode 4 or 5 when we released the Kentrosaurus, they did take a minute to come out of their enclosures, so I won't trip about that or anything. You know, they'll when they decide to come out is when they decide to come out. Of course, I can't close the doors until they all come out, and of course, they are probably going to wander in and out of the the holding pen, of course, which is what we don't want. But the main objective, as I mentioned, is just to get all of these animals out into the wild. Um, you know, this isn't like our usual episodes where we'll pick a certain location on Isla Sorna and we'll, you know, the format is usually we'll talk about the certain species that are in the area and see how they're interacting in their own little areas and with each other and stuff like that. You know, this isn't the usual format. This episode will feel a little bit more clunky. I just didn't want to spend multiple episodes releasing multiple animals. You know, I wanted it to be a over and done with kind of episode. So, anyways, the rest of the Loki Ceratops, or majority of them, are making their way out of the holding pen. We still have a few more, along with a couple more Ornithomimuses, but we're gonna get ready to actually venture off to another part here on Isla Sorna. We have more animals on our new 2025 engine list to release into the wild of Isla Sorna. So we'll catch you guys on the next part in a couple of seconds. All right, everybody. So here we are back on another part of Isla Sorna, one of our more wooded pine tree areas on Isla Sorna. You know, we spend a lot of time in our tropical areas, so of course, you know, Isla Sorna is such a huge island, as I always say, so it's home to a lot of different biomes. So anyways, we're in another more calm, another more relaxed area on Isla Sorna here, where we have a lot of herbivores in the area, of course. So in this area, we're going to release 3 species. This is a very large area here on Isla Sorna, despite it being a more relaxed area. So we're going to release Patago Titan, Utah Raptor, and Concavinator. So the Patago Titans, um, oh, the Patago Titans are actually all ready for release. So you know these animals are actually one of my favorites. You know, as I mentioned, the reason why we chose to clone it and of course, release it into the wild was because we are heavily lacking in the large sauropod department. We only have Brachiosauruses and Myrmentosauruses on the island. We're gonna get these gates open too, so they can start making their way out. So of course, we were really looking forward to you know, adding another large, beautiful sauropod. So whether or not, you know, these guys are a little bit more slower, of course, in terms of movement. So whether or not they choose to move out of this holding pen fast or not, it won't determine how fast we release the next species out of, you know, of course, the incubators. So just gonna take a little bit of a closer look at our beautiful Patago Titans and give them a little bit of time to, of course, make their way out of their holding pen. I'm pretty sure they are very hungry and thirsty. And we can also take a little bit, I mean, we can also take a look at some of that sexual dimorphism. We have our female right here. We have our males. Our males are a little bit more brown in color. You can see the green a little bit up under their neck and the green on their head crest. The spikes in their neck are actually a little bit more prominent too, and going down the back as well. We have another male right here. Beautiful animals. The InGen team and I, we were really at hard work in terms of choosing which animals we wanted to put on this 2025 InGen list. We wanted every animal to feel special. So, of course, Patago Titan was definitely one of those animals that we all really agreed on in terms of what animals to put on this new species list. We have our females right here, and you can just hear how heavy their steps are as they, you know, just move around in this holding pen. So as I mentioned, you know, the main objective of this episode is to just get these guys released out into the wilds on Isla Sorna, and we won't actually be able to observe these creatures in all of their beauty into further episodes when, you know, they take part in the already established ecosystems. Another thing I might also mention is that though we cloned all these animals together, it doesn't take away from the fact that some of them are already actually mated pairs, meaning that they're gonna go into the wild already actually a mated pair and looking to, you know, of course, lay eggs and stuff like that and have their own young and stuff like that. So with that being said, it won't be too long, just like our Kentrosauruses, it won't be too long until we'll have juveniles of all these animals from the new 2025 engine list that we're releasing, into the wild here. So we're just going to give this area a little quick scope. Though I said the main focus of this episode is to release all the animals as fast as we can and not just do it episode by episode like I initially planned. We're going to just scope out the area, while we got a little bit of time. Let the Patago Titans, of course, make their way out of, you know, their holding pen. Of course, they're not as fast as other animals. So as I mentioned, Isosorna is home to a lot of variety of biomes. It's a very, very huge island. When Dr. Grant and Dr. L. Malcolm were actually on the island during their respective years, they only really got to visit the more tropical redwooded parts of the island. It's a lot of stuff they didn't really get to see. A lot of stuff the public don't know about Isosorna. Here are some of those Kentrosaurus that we were actually speaking about, and just like in the last episode where we came across some adults with juveniles, here we are again seeing some adults with juveniles, which is just such a beautiful thing because, we released these Kentrosaurus not too long ago. It wasn't a dinosaur that was planned for our new 2025 engine list. It was just a dinosaur that we got, 100% 100% DNA of course. So we decided to, of course, clone that specific animal, which is a Kentrosaurus, and obviously release them into the wild. So anytime I see juveniles of animals that we release into the wild, it always just makes me happy because it just goes to show that these guys are absolutely thriving. So anyways, let's go make our way back to the Patago Titans. I just want to showcase this area a little bit. Let me see how many have made their way out of their holding pens. And they're just so beautiful, just moving about. As I mentioned, our males are a little bit more brown with blackish stripes, green crest, green up under the neck, and our beautiful females don't have as much prominent facial features as the males do. But she is just as gorgeous, don't get me wrong. So anyways, most of them are making their way out. As I said, we got way more animals to release. So we're going to go ahead and release the next animal on our engine list. And I did also forget to mention the Patago Titan. For those that don't know, we cloned 14 Patago Titans, 7 males, 7 females. We didn't have to worry about making a lesser number of males for the simple fact that they're not as aggressive when it's time to breed compared to other animals here on the island. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and release our Utah Raptors, a fan favorite amongst me and my engine coworkers that we were really looking forward to cloning. We have about, let me see, just pull up my notes here. The Utah Raptor. We cloned 15 Utah Raptors, 5 males, 10 females. Of course, we cloned more females. That way the males have a larger variety of females to choose from when it's time to mate. So, guys, hear me good when I tell you that this was one of my favorite animals to release and to clone and release off of our new engine list. Tap back into our camera mode here. So as I mentioned, 5 males, 10 females. So you're going to see a lot more female. This is our male here. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful animal. 5 males, and then you can see our females coming out in the back. The males are, of course, way more beefier. A little bit more colorful too, and the females are not as beefy, just more so have a slicker build. Probably a little bit faster as well. So I'm very interested to see how these guys take up their own little territories here on Isosorna, and I'm very interested to see how they interact with the Velociraptors, of course, and the Dilophosauruses, and our concavenators that we're releasing in this same proximity, just a little ways away. I doubt that these guys will come in contact with each other because this little area that we're at here on Isosorna is very huge. So as you can see, they actually make some of the same vocalization sounds as our Velociraptors. And for those that don't know, Utah Raptors is one of the biggest Dromaeosaurus ever found, which is why it was a must that we had to clone these beautiful animals and release them, into the wild of Isosorna. So, one thing I'm extremely happy about is that we've been seeing a lot of beautiful animals during our Site B Mode series, and there's more to come. We're only on episode 7, but now we have a We have 9 more species that we're adding to the island, and this was 9 species off of our new 2025 engine list. But just like the case of the Kentrosaurus that we released into the wild a couple episodes back that wasn't on this list, we're always extracting DNA out of the mosquitoes and stuff like that. We're always looking to, I guess you could say, extend our dinosaur portfolio, and we're always looking to clone more animals. So this entire engine list that is filled with 9 beautiful species, this is just a list of animals that we've been working on for the past couple of years. So with all that being said, this has nothing to do with any other animals that we might release at later dates. So we're going to give these guys a couple seconds to get out into the wild. I would love to see some hunts take place because I do think we have some allure titans and stuff like that in the area. I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I do think we do. We have this beautiful male patago titan already feeding. But as you can see, these guys, they feel more safer with each other because they spent the last year and a half with each other. We cloned them all in the same year, periodically throughout the year. Some are, yeah, I would say we cloned most of them periodically throughout the year, so they grew up with each other. They're siblings, of course. So not by blood, but well, I guess you could say by DNA, but not like coming from the same clutch of eggs. So it's only natural they'll kind of stay. Well, they'll kind of take refuge amongst each other. So, anyways, we're going to head a little upwind here because we have another holding pen. As I said, this area here on Isosorna is very huge. As you can see, we have some Ramenchosauruses, some juvenile Ramenchosauruses as well. This area is extremely huge. Let's tap back into our camera mode. I believe we also have yeah, we have a Sinoceratops right here. We have a Baryonyx right here that appears to be hunting. This is a very huge river stream. This area is very calm, very relaxed, so we're not worried about, anything aggressive harming our newly cloned dinosaurs that we're releasing out into the wild, of course. But the animals that are already in this area are not the main focus. The main focuses are the animals that we are releasing, of course. So over here we have a variety of Corythosaurus with the Lord Titans, and I believe we have some Homocephales in this area as well. Oh, we know we have some Gallimimuses. So we are actually over here going to be releasing our Concavenators. So Concavinator is in the Carcharodontosauridae family, so of course it's the second on our new engine list. Of course, the first being the Acrocanthosaurus. So we are extremely excited to release these beautiful animals into the wild here on Isosorda and see how they interact with each other as well. So for those that don't know, we cloned 15 concavenators, 5 males and 10 females, and we're gonna get these guys released ASAP. So I believe that should be all of them. Oh, okay, wait, I was wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome a concavinator to the park.
Okay, so tap back into our camera mode right quick. So we have our concavenators making their way out into the wild. After this, guys, we'll only have one more little location here on Isla Sorna to visit. Um, See if I can showcase some of that sexual dimorphism between these
Ladies and
beautiful, beautiful
gentlemen,
animals.
we are pleased to welcome a concavinator to
So
the
these
park.
are the females right here. The quills on the back of their head is not as prominent, and they're not overall. They're just not as big as our males. These are our males here, a lot more brighter in color. Of course, you'll see that a lot with male animals because they have to impress the females, of course. And the quills on the back of their head are actually way more prominent. As I mentioned multiple times already, you might not see these carnivores that we're releasing. We might not see them hunt that much for the simple fact that they're getting accustomed to their new home. Of course, we've been holding them in pens for, majority of their lives. So they have to grow accustomed to their new homes and of course figure out where they rank in terms of the food chain. We have our concavenators coming out a lot faster compared to our Utah Raptors, which is actually perfect because The better they get out the holding pen, I mean, the faster they get out the holding pens, the better. We got two beautiful, beautiful females right here. As I mentioned, they're a lot smaller compared to our males, and the quills on the back of their head are not as prominent. Once we get these last ones to come out, we can close these gates up. You always got the ones that kind of want to linger around a little bit. And as I mentioned, this area is filled with Corythosauruses, Gallimimuses, juvenile Corythosauruses, and oh, some Allure Titans on this side as well. So pretty interesting to see how they are going to interact with our concavenators, or more so pretty interesting to see how our concavenators interact with them. We have a male and female. Just at first they were staring at each other. It looked like we had a staring contest going on. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to get some of these gates closed. That way they don't keep wandering in and out. Close this one up. We have this one making its way out of that gate, so we're going to get that gate closed. And now we have the last one making its way out now, very, very, very slowly. So of course we're going to close that gate as well. Well, actually, no, we'll leave this gate open and we'll close this gate. And whether or not she decides to make her way out, you know, she'll do it on her own timing. So what we're going to do, we're going to tab back into our camera mode and view these concavenators just a little bit more. Well, I'm very interested to see how fast these guys start breeding here on Isla Sorna. And, you know, anytime we release animals into the wild, we're always looking forward to them increasing their own population numbers. You know, it would be unfortunate if these guys, you know, didn't have a high breeding success rate. But as I mentioned plenty of times, we'll do our due diligence as far as recloning animals that, you know, we do our due diligence as far as recloning animals that kind of get low in numbers, basically. So we have a male Gallimimus running, and his juvenile is running right beside him, so he's probably definitely spooked by this female concavenator, or this large group of concavenators. You can see them kind of just really just coexisting with each other. So we have one more area here on Isla Sorna to go to, and before we go, we're going to go just check on our large Dromaeosaurs right quick, our Utah Raptors, to see if they made their way out of their enclosures, which I'm hoping that they did. That way we can view them a little bit more. I don't know how the Patago Titans ended up moving way faster than them. So yes, as you can see, we have our females, two beautiful females right here, and we have a male here that is sleeping. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all of these guys establish their own territories. We have two females, of course, still in their holding pens. But no, this is a male right here. So yeah, as I mentioned, you know, in later episodes, we'll be able to view these animals a lot better once they actually grow accustomed to being in the wild. You know, they're being released for the first time. Probably a little agitated, but not agitated to the point where they want to act aggressive. More so agitated where they'll probably do a lot of napping. And then from there, once they get accustomed and grow accustomed to their areas, that's when we'll start seeing them be more active in future episodes. So anyways, let's go to our very last location here on Isla Sorna and release our last 3 animals. Alright everybody, so we are at our last location here on Isla Sorna where we're going to release the last 3 remaining animals off the new 2025 InGen list. The last 3 is Sauropelta. We cloned 12 of them, 3 males, 9 females. Mutaborosaurus, we cloned 20, 10 males, 10 females. And Eutyrannus, we cloned 10, 4 males and 6 females. So let's hurry up and get them released in this last little part here, this last little proximity here on Isla Sorna. Not going to waste no time. First, we're going to release our beautiful Mutaborosaurus. Make sure that's all of them. And we're also going to release our Sauropeltus. Like I said, we're not going to just wait for one specific species to come out of their holding pens. We're just going to go ahead and release them all together. We have a nice little calm area that we're releasing these animals at here on Isla Sorna. These are the beautiful Muttaburasauruses, and I'm excited to see how they coexist with the other hadrosaur type dinosaurs here on the island, such as our Critosaurus, Parasaurolophus, Allure
Ladies and
Titans, and
gentlemen, we are pleased to
Edmontosauruses.
welcome a Sauropelta to the park.
And as I just mentioned, our Sauropeltas here, our Sauropeltas will fit in extremely well with our Ankylosaurus. As I mentioned in the last episode, the reason why we chose Sauropeltas was because we were heavily lacking in the Ankylosaur department. You know, we don't really have that many of these animals here on Isla Sorna, which is why they made the
Ladies and gentlemen,
2025
we are
InGen list.
pleased to welcome a Muttaburrasaurus to the
So
park.
just as the other animals did, you know, we're not going to wait for them to come out of their pen or anything like that. You know, while you know they get accustomed to coming out into the wild for the first time, we're going to just explore the area a little bit. We have Dryasauruses all over the area. I believe above these trees here, we're in a more redwooded area here. Yeah, we have a large variety. I mean, we have a large family of trikes here. There should be some juvenile trikes around as well. As I mentioned, the animals that are already here in the wild, they're not really the main focus. The main focus were just to release, you know, the new 2025 animals out into the wild. So we're going to give them a little bit of time, then we're going to go release our Utyrannus. There is a specific animal, as I mentioned, these locations here that we're releasing these new animals in are more relaxed locations, but there is a specific animal that is in this location, and of course, you know, I love feedback from the people that view this Site B series. You know, I love to see people enjoy it, of course, because it's the only series in the world where you can see these beautiful animals in the flesh, of course. Um, I did get some feedback from one of my subscribers, and he said that he would love for um for the InGen team and I to start naming some of these animals, which we don't have a problem with. It's just that we visit so many locations here on Isla Sorna, and you know sometimes when we do name some of these animals, but we don't give them specific names. We try not to become too attached to them because you know you could be here one day and be gone the next day here on Isla Sorna. But you know, I thought I would talk about one specific animal that is in the area, which is a very solitary Spinosaurus here. So as I mentioned in episode 3, we have, you know, the original Spinosaurus that Dr. Alan Grant talked about in 2001. Of course, that one died, and as I said in episode 3, you know, we extracted as much DNA as we could from that original Spinosaurus, and we cloned 7 a couple years ago. We cloned 7, and of course released them into the wild in Isosorna, and of course, you know, they're doing so good that their numbers have skyrocketed since then. But this is actually the first Spinosaurus that was cloned using the DNA of the original one that Dr. Alan Grant reported on in 2001. So in the last episode, you guys will see how social our Spinosauruses are, but this one wasn't, and I think it's because it is the first from that original clone. And that original clone Spinosaurus from 2001 was so solitary. He was so solitary to the point that we gave this male the nickname of Loner. And the reason why we call them loners is because if you go watch the social behavior of the Spinosauruses from the last episode, you guys will see them living in large groups, well, medium to, I guess you can say, somewhat large groups, and you see a whole bunch of juveniles and stuff. You see that they don't mind being social with each other, but we believe that Loner here is almost a direct copy of the original Spinosaurus from 2001, and he completely separated himself from the other Spinosauruses that we've seen in the last episode, or from the other Spinosauruses that were originally cloned with him back in, well, back a couple years ago when we recloned Spinosaurus to introduce him to the wild. So this is actually his own personal territory. We have seen him defend it before against medium carnivores that were unaware of, you know, of his presence, of course. So, you know, of course he has aquatic life to feed from, but he also has a variety of animals out here, such as centaursauruses, triceratops, and I believe we have yeah, some stygimolochs in the area. So Loner here, he's a fully grown, very aggressive Spinosaurus, but he's not aggressive to the point where he doesn't go out of his way to be aggressive towards animals. He's just aggressive to the point where he wouldn't hesitate to defend his defend his territory. So of course he is extremely solitary. You can actually see some skeletal remains of some animals that he picked off. I'm unsure what it is. Probably an unfortunate animal that, stumbled into his territory. So that's the reason why I wanted to introduce Loner here. I had a subscriber say we should, give some of these animals names that we come in contact with, which is something we don't mind doing. As I mentioned plenty of times before, we keep tabs on most of our adult animals here on the island. So Loner was a name that we been gave him. It's just this is the first time you guys have seen him. So of course we'll catch back up with Loner in future episodes. Anyways, so it's time to release our last animal, which is Utyrannus. Then we're gonna wrap this episode up. Utyrannus, as I mentioned, we cloned 10 of them, 4 males and 6 females. We're gonna release them right quick, and then we're gonna wrap this episode up, of course. As I just said 1,000 times over and over and over, our goal was to mainly not necessarily watch these animals coexist with the already other
Ladies
established
and gentlemen,
ecosystems here on
we
the
are
island.
pleased to welcome
Our goal was to mainly release these animals into the wild. That way we can see them in future episodes. We're really looking forward to see how these animals coexist with already established ecosystems, how they coexist amongst each other. And we have high hopes that these animals will do very, very good here on Isla Sorna. And as I mentioned plenty times before, Isla Sorna is such a big island that it gives these animals the opportunity to almost live in peace or really be picky about what kind of territories that they want to live in. So this is our male here. You can see he's a little bit more darker. The sun is not as
Ladies and
reflecting as
gentlemen,
good as
we
it
are
is
pleased to
when we
welcome a
released our
Utyrannus to the
Sauropeltas
park.
and Muttaburasauruses, but I say that to say that you might not be able to see that sexual dimorphism because of the sun, but this is our female right here. She's a little bit more lighter in color. Her feathering is not as prominent as the male, and this is our male right here. He's a little bit more darker in color. So, as I said plenty times before, we're not really looking to watch them hunt or anything like that. If they do hunt, like the Acrocanthosaurus in the beginning of the episode, that would be cool. But those are things that we're keeping reserved for, future episodes and stuff. So, anyways, guys, a very busy, clunky episode, and episodes will not be like this in the future. It's just, I said in the last episode I had plans to release all the new animals off of the new InGen list, episode by episode, or maybe skip episodes. But something just, I was talking with the other InGen coworkers, my InGen coworkers, and they kind of just all came to agreement that that would take way too long when we can be focusing on a lot more things. So I wanted to spend this episode releasing all of the new animals off the new 2025 InGen list all at one time. So I apologize for viewers that that like the format, our usual format as far as picking an area out on Isla Sorna and just scoping it out. I apologize that this episode couldn't be up to par for you. It won't always be like this. I wanted to just get these animals released as soon as possible. Yes, I could have did it off screen, but I really wanted you guys to see the release of all these beautiful animals because this is definitely big news in terms of our new 2025 InGen list. So to wrap this episode up, we release Acrocanthosauruses, Utahraptors, Lokiceratops, Utyrannus, Ornithomimus, Concavenator, Patagotitan, Muttaburrasaurus, and Sauropelta. All 9 of the new animals off our new 2025 InGen list has been officially released out into the wilds here on Isla Sorna. And there's plenty more to come, of course. And as long as you guys stay tuned, you guys will see what will take place in future episodes. So anyways, we will catch you guys later.